The moment the black SUV rolled through the towering gates of the mansion, everyone stopped what they were doing. The billionaire owner of the estate had spent months searching for the perfect bodyguard after receiving a series of anonymous threats. She rejected former police officers, elite security consultants, and expensive private contractors. None of them seemed capable of protecting the only person who truly mattered, her 8-year-old daughter. That morning, however, the head of security introduced someone different. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man with calm eyes and a face marked by years of hardship. His name was Daniel Carter, a former Navy SEAL who had completed countless dangerous missions before leaving the military. Widowed only a few years earlier, he was now raising his young son alone. Despite his impressive record, he carried himself with remarkable humility, speaking little and observing everything around him. The billionaire studied him carefully from the grand staircase. She was used to reading people in seconds. Billion-dollar business deals had taught her to trust logic instead of emotion. Daniel looked disciplined, honest, and confident, yet there was an unmistakable sadness hidden behind his steady expression. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He simply wanted the job. After a brief conversation, she nodded in approval. "You're hired," she said firmly. Daniel thanked her politely, and prepared to begin his first tour of the mansion. At that exact moment, a small pair of footsteps echoed across the marble floor. Her 8-year-old daughter, Lily, came running down the hallway. Normally, Lily avoided strangers. Since the death of her father several years earlier, she rarely spoke to new people. Even relatives needed weeks before she felt comfortable around them. The house staff knew never to force introductions because it usually frightened her. But this time, something completely unexpected happened. The little girl looked at Daniel for only a second before her eyes widened with excitement. Without hesitation, she sprinted across the enormous entrance hall, ignoring everyone calling her name. Before anyone could react, she threw both arms around the new bodyguard and hugged him tightly. "I found you!" she cried, smiling through happy tears. The entire mansion fell silent. The billionaire's confident expression disappeared instantly. She stared in complete disbelief as her daughter clung to a man she had never met before. Every maid, security officer, and assistant exchanged confused glances. This made no sense. Daniel himself looked stunned. His military instincts had prepared him for ambushes, gunfire, and impossible missions, but nothing had prepared him for an emotional little girl hugging him as though he had always been part of her life. Unsure of what to do, he slowly placed one hand on her back, making sure she felt safe without overstepping his role. "Lily," her mother called firmly. "Come here." The girl shook her head. "No," she whispered. "He keeps people safe." Those simple words sent chills through everyone listening. The billionaire walked closer, trying to understand what she was seeing. Lily had refused to hug therapists, teachers, and even family friends after losing her father. Yet now she was smiling brighter than she had in years. "Sweetheart," her mother asked gently, "how do you know him?" Lily looked up innocently. "I don't know, but I dreamed about him." The room became even quieter. Daniel's breathing slowed as he searched the child's face for any sign that someone had coached her. There was none. Her excitement was completely genuine. "What did you dream?" her mother asked cautiously. Lily smiled. "He told me not to be scared anymore. He said he'd always protect me." Daniel lowered his eyes. Those exact words struck him harder than anyone realized. Years earlier, before his wife died in a tragic accident, he used to tell his own little son the very same sentence every night before bed. "I'll always protect you." No one outside his family had ever heard those words. For the first time since arriving, the former Navy SEAL looked genuinely shaken. The billionaire noticed the change immediately. As one of the world's most successful business leaders, she rarely missed details. Daniel wasn't pretending. Whatever Lily had said had reached somewhere deep inside him. Trying to regain control of the situation, she gently guided her daughter away. Lily reluctantly released the hug but refused to let go of Daniel's hand. "I knew you'd come," she said softly. Daniel forced a small smile. I'm here now, he replied. The billionaire watched the exchange with growing uncertainty. She had hired a professional bodyguard to defend her family from dangerous enemies. Instead, within 5 minutes of entering the mansion, he had somehow formed an impossible connection with her daughter. She couldn't explain it. Neither could anyone else. But deep inside, she had the strange feeling that hiring Daniel Carter had not been an ordinary business decision. It was the beginning of something far bigger than any of them could imagine. The strange encounter stayed in the billionaire's mind for the rest of the day. No matter how hard she tried to focus on meetings, contracts, and phone calls worth millions of dollars, she couldn't forget the way her daughter had run into Daniel's arms without fear. Lily had always been quiet around strangers, especially men. After losing her father in a tragic accident, she had built invisible walls around her heart. Doctors called it emotional trauma. Therapists suggested patience. Yet within seconds of meeting Daniel Carter, those walls had completely disappeared. That evening, Daniel officially began his first security shift. He carefully inspected every entrance, security camera, emergency exit, and blind spot around the massive estate. Years of military service had trained him to notice details others ignored. He quietly pointed out weaknesses in the security system that no one else had discovered. The head of security was impressed, while the billionaire silently observed from a distance. She had hired dozens of professionals before, but none had demonstrated Daniel's level of awareness. As the sun disappeared behind the hills, Lily walked into the garden carrying a small sketchbook. She noticed Daniel standing near the fountain, scanning the property with complete focus. "Can I sit here?" she asked shyly. Daniel smiled politely. "Of course." She sat on a nearby bench and began drawing without saying another word. Several minutes passed in comfortable silence. Finally, she held up the page. "I drew you." Daniel looked at the picture and couldn't hide his surprise. It wasn't just a drawing of him standing in the garden. Behind him, Lily had drawn a bright shield surrounding the entire mansion. "My mommy says bodyguards protect people," she explained. "But you're different." "Different how?" Daniel asked gently. "You protect hearts too." The words caught him completely off guard. He had spent years learning combat, survival, and tactical defense. No military instructor had ever taught him how to answer something so innocent. Before he could respond, the billionaire stepped outside onto the terrace. She had witnessed the entire conversation from the window. For the first time in years, she saw genuine happiness on her daughter's face. It was something money had never been able to buy. Still, her instincts refused to ignore the mystery. Later that night, she quietly opened Daniel's personnel file again. His military record was extraordinary. Multiple medals, classified missions, excellent recommendations. But one detail made her pause. His wife had died 4 years earlier. Since then, he had been raising his young son alone while working smaller security jobs instead of accepting high-paying overseas contracts. She frowned. A man with his experience could have earned millions protecting politicians or celebrities. Instead, he had chosen a quieter life that allowed him to remain close to his child. She suddenly understood something important. Daniel wasn't working for wealth. He was working for family. The next morning, her understanding was tested. As Lily played near the mansion's garden, one of the newer maintenance workers accidentally left a side gate unlocked. Daniel noticed it immediately. Before anyone else realized the mistake, he calmly guided Lily away from the area and ordered security to secure the entrance. Only seconds later, surveillance cameras captured a suspicious vehicle slowing down outside the property before quickly driving away. The billionaire's heart nearly stopped. If Daniel hadn't spotted the open gate, the situation could have become far more dangerous. "You noticed that in seconds," she said later. Daniel nodded. "In my old job, one small mistake could cost innocent lives." She looked at him differently now, not just as an employee, but as someone whose experience had been earned through sacrifice. That evening, Lily walked into the living room carrying 2 cups of hot chocolate. "I made one for Mommy," she said proudly. "And one for Daniel." The billionaire laughed softly. I think he prefers coffee. Lily smiled. Maybe. But everyone deserves hot chocolate sometimes. Daniel accepted the cup with a grateful smile. It was such a simple gesture, yet it reminded him painfully of evenings with his own son after difficult days. The billionaire noticed the sadness in his eyes. You miss your family? She said quietly. Daniel nodded. Every single day. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They were two parents who had both experienced heartbreaking loss in different ways. One had lost her husband. The other had lost the love of his life. Both carried responsibilities much heavier than anyone around them realized. As they stood together watching Lily laugh in the garden, either of them noticed the black SUV parked far beyond the estate gates. Inside, an unknown man lowered a pair of binoculars. He wasn't watching the billionaire. He wasn't watching the mansion. His attention remained fixed on Daniel Carter. A slow smile appeared on the stranger's face as he picked up his phone. So, he whispered, we finally found the Navy SEAL. The danger everyone feared was no longer approaching. It had already arrived.